the male protagonist, Senpai, expressed his surprise that even the first-year girls seemed to look down on him, feeling totally shocked by this realization, while his junior, Hanasaki, playfully teased him, remarking that it took a while for the first years to get used to him as she called him a helpless senpai. Hanasaki then winked and playfully told Senpai that he simply couldn't do without her, and Senpai internally noted that for some reason, despite always acting refined, she only showed this mischievous, little devil attitude specifically to him. Changing the subject, Hanasaki asked Senpai if he wanted to go on patrol outside after school, and although he initially hesitated, saying he would try to handle it himself next time, she enthusiastically confirmed her intention, explaining that there was a spot where some students like to hang out, leaving Senpai confused about the idea of patrol. Senpai soon realized that as student council members, they couldn't overlook potential trouble for the neighbors and agreed to the patrol, and later, Hanasaki cheerfully bid him farewell, saying she would see him after school, which he acknowledged. They arrived at a shrine named Yum-Emi Shrine, and Senpai wondered if their students were there, but he observed that no one was present, while Hanasaki explained that the place was quite popular among girls as a matchmaking shrine. They then read a plaque detailing the shrine's legend, which spoke of a beautiful noble princess and a commoner in the Heian era whose forbidden love led them to vow eternal love at the shrine, mysteriously allowing them to meet every night in their dreams and secretly spend their lives together that way, and Hanasaki further clarified that if two destined people purchased charms, they would be bound by eternal love and able to meet in their dreams. Senpai thought to himself that there was no one who would fall for someone like him, questioning whether it was really appropriate for him to be at a matchmaking shrine, while Hanasaki playfully teased him, asking if he was starting to notice her, to which he denied, stating he was only worried about how others would perceive him. Hanasaki then persistently encouraged him to buy a charm, suggesting that if the legend was true, they might meet in his dreams, and Senpai found her insistence somewhat pushy. Senpai expressed that since Hanasaki was physically present in front of him, meeting in a dream wouldn't hold much significance, yet he playfully wondered what it would be like to meet her in a dream, even imagining her laughing wildly, while Hanasaki provocatively asked him what he would do if she appeared in his dream. Hanasaki continued, stating provocatively that in a dream, he could do absolutely anything he desired. She questioned if thinking about something seemingly impossible wasn't precisely what made it interesting, and then, pouting, she asked if it wasn't acceptable for him, as her senpai, to simply go along with something like this, emphasizing that it was a heartfelt request from his cute junior. Senpai sighed and agreed to purchase the charm if she was truly going that far, which caused Hanasaki to cheer excitedly, and he then humorously questioned whose perspective she was even speaking from, while she excitedly remarked that spring had finally arrived for him too, promising to cheer him on. That night, Senpai was shown in his bed, looking at the charm he had bought, and soon he fell asleep. He then woke up to find Hanasaki in his room, calling out his name, and he asked if it was truly her. Senpai initially wondered if he had been influenced by the legend and if this entire situation was merely a dream, but Hanasaki apologized, stating she was captivated by him, which further solidified Senpai's belief that he was still dreaming. Realizing that it was a dream and therefore would not affect reality, Senpai let go of his inhibitions, exclaiming that she was incredibly cute and questioning what on earth she was. He passionately asked her why she reserved that special attitude only for him, praising her graceful manners and kindness towards everyone, admitting that he had found her cute from the very first moment he saw her, and confessing that, of course, he would end up falling for her, then asked if she truly realized how much that shook his heart. Hanasaki, still seemingly in the dream, recognized that this was a dream and felt safe to act freely, proclaiming her love for Senpai, while he, appearing overwhelmed, apologized and wondered what he was doing, and Hanasaki loudly declared that he simply didn't understand anything at all. Hanasaki then revealed that the shrine was especially significant because it was where her parents had met and gotten together, explaining that she had gathered all her courage to invite him there, while Senpai, still confused and possibly embarrassed, could only utter, "No." She passionately declared that he was the one. A cute underclassman like her was making moves on him, and questioned why he wasn't even blushing or acting shy, and then, with a thud, she urged him to please fall in love with her for real. Despite her heartfelt confession, Senpai seemed to view it as a delusion, believing that what she said was still part of a dream, while she desperately pleaded, "I love you even more, Senpai." And he, in his dream state, declared that he would say, "I love you so much," as many times as it took, wishing only that this wasn't just a dream. The next morning, back in reality, Senpai was visibly distraught and couldn't bring himself to face Hanasaki, feeling immense guilt because even though it was just a dream, he had made her do something like that. His younger sister, Himari Kusakabe, a first-year, Chiharu's classmate, and a student council member in general affairs, greeted him, surprised he had finally arrived. Himari then inquired if her Oniai-chan was okay, noting he had seemed down since that morning, and offered him a pretty stone she had found during lunch break, which he politely declined, stating it was nothing serious. Later, while they were in what appeared to be the archive room, a different student council member or classmate entered and asked Senpai if he was feeling unwell today, and he replied that he wasn't. Himari, observing this interaction, remarked that his face always looked like that, lacking energy, and his eyes appeared totally dead, but she quickly retorted that it was none of her business when he tried to interject. Later, as they were tidying up, Hanasaki suggested they finish their work a bit early, with a mischievous hee-hee, and advising them not to push themselves too hard, while Himari reminded her that she was supposed to organize the pile of documents. Himari then pointed out the stack of documents that needed organizing, and Hanasaki sheepishly admitted she had forgotten, promising to get right to it. Hanasaki then approached Senpai, holding the charm, and asked if it was still on his mind, sensing that something was amiss. She pressed him, asking if he had seen her in his dream, to which he mumbled a hesitant, well, as she held the charm and revealed that she hadn't had any dreams the previous night and hadn't shown the charm to anyone yet. He, overhearing this, exclaimed, "Huh? What kind of reaction is that?" and then asked Senpai where he had gone during yesterday's patrol, adding that cleaning up was surprisingly quick. Senpai mumbled that he had been at club activities, while Himari, concerned, declared that he shouldn't be relying on gods for love, revealing that she knew he had gone to Yum-Emi Shrine for love blessings, questioning if it was such a bad thing. Himari then showed him a video on her phone, confirming that the shrine was indeed where Hanasaki's parents, Daisuke Hanasaki and Kasumi Hanasaki, had gotten together, proving its matchmaking power. Senpai was shocked, recalling that he had heard that story in his dream, and realized with a jolt that the dream was true, as he saw the video describing Hanasaki couple's casual stroll and the shrine that connected our ties. Both Hanasaki and Senpai stared at the phone, with Hanasaki confirming that it was just as written on the site, while Senpai felt a huge sense of relief, realizing the dream was not just his imagination, and even concluded that praying to the gods wasn't so bad after all, marveling that a shrine, officially approved by the Hanazakis, was nearby. Back in his room, Senpai found himself once again in the dream, waking up with a start. He tried to tell himself that it was just his imagination and that he needed to keep his self-control to avoid awkwardness in real life. However, Hanasaki was still there in his room, seemingly in the dream, and collapsed, appearing distressed, while Senpai asked if she was okay. She then looked at him with wide eyes, asking if he was the real Senpai, and he confirmed that he was. She continued, asking if they had met in yesterday's dream, and if he remembered telling her that her parents had gotten together at Yum-Emi Shrine, to which he replied that he had heard that. Then, she confessed that what she had said about seeing it online was a lie, and began flailing and screaming, causing Senpai to try and calm her down, warning her that she would bite her tongue off, to which she retorted that if he stopped her, she would bite her tongue off and die. Hanasaki, deflated, finally calmed down, and Senpai suggested they sort out the situation. Hanasaki mused if this was the effect of the charm, then explained that they must actually be meeting inside this dream since they both clearly had their personalities and memories, and Senpai could only assume that was the case. He remembered the legend about a beautiful princess and a commoner separated but then able to meet in dreams after pledging eternal love at Yum-Emi Shrine and buying a pair of charms. Senpai realized that he remembered yesterday's dream even in reality, but Hanasaki, frustrated, exclaimed that it wasn't fair that only he remembered, arguing that she didn't remember anything at all. She tearfully questioned if it was wrong that she liked him, calling herself a coward who couldn't even confess properly, admitting that she had been hiding it this whole time. Senpai, in the dream, pulled Hanasaki close, telling her to calm down and assuring her that he felt the same way, explaining that he was just putting on a fake, little devil act and wasn't even close to being cool and confident, and then he passionately declared, "I really love you." Hanasaki, surprised, cried out that he didn't understand anything at all and lamented that her feelings had to be exposed, wishing he hadn't known. As she thrashed around, he urged her to stop rolling, and he then internally questioned if this was the real Hanasaki, admitting it was hard to believe. Hanasaki, fidgeting and appearing distressed, asked if their feelings were mutual, to which he affirmed, stating that his words were also from the heart. She then, feeling woozy, looked at him and, with a hopeful expression, requested that if that were the case, he confess to her properly in real life too, desiring to experience mutual love for 24 hours. The manga ended with Senpai waking up in his bed, pondering her words, "Confess to me? Turning dreams into reality." Senpai looked seriously at Hanasaki, intending to make something clear about her, which surprised her and made her ask what he meant. Hanasaki then reacted with exaggerated amusement, wondering why Senpai was making such a serious face and giggling, while he seemed somewhat taken aback by her response. She then playfully waved her hands, apologizing and saying, "Oh right," as if remembering something, and stated that she had a lesson and needed to excuse herself, adding that she didn't mean anything deep by buying the charm and asked if he had actually taken it seriously, before slamming the door shut. Senpai was left alone, reflecting on the situation, thinking he had been rejected and that he probably wouldn't see that dream again, concluding that in the end, a dream was just a dream and there was no reason to see it again anyway. However, to his surprise, he found himself back in the dream, with Hanasaki appearing before him once more, despite the charm's effect supposedly being fake. Hanasaki then burst into tears, apologizing profusely and declaring that she truly, from the bottom of her heart, loved him so much, clarifying that her previous dismissal was not how she truly felt, and she then passionately embraced him while still sobbing. Hanasaki, sitting beside him in the dream, revealed that she had thought she was going to be rejected by him, appearing distraught. She nervously wondered if she had been too pushy, if he had started to hate her, and admitted that she had gotten really anxious and thought she had messed up, despite him buying the charm for her, because his reaction had remained distant, just like always. Senpai then understood, realizing that she hadn't even recognized her dream confession as a real one, and he acknowledged that his reaction probably didn't feel like a significant moment to her. He internally recognized that from Hanasaki's point of view, that moment must have felt hopeless, especially considering how he had consistently shown a certain attitude towards her in reality, while another version of Hanasaki's voice echoed his own words, suggesting he didn't have a girlfriend and was lucky to have a cute junior like her. Senpai then explained to Hanasaki in the dream that they were not ready to become a couple yet. He reflected that while the charm had made him think they had mutual feelings in the dream, in reality, things had ended up differently today, and he realized that if things stayed as they were, even if his confession succeeded, he would only end up hurting her again. He then declared that he wanted to truly understand her through this dream so that he could stop the misunderstandings between them in the real world, and once he genuinely understood her, he would then properly confess to the real her this time. Hanasaki, delighted by his sincerity, smiled broadly and commented that his resolve was just so like him, Senpai, making him question what she meant by that, to which she clarified that she meant it in a good way. Senpai apologized for the awkwardness of explaining his feelings and making plans to win over the real her while in the dream, admitting that it was kind of embarrassing. Hanasaki reassured him that it was perfectly okay. They then held hands, and he explained that once they truly understood each other, they could become the happiest couple ever, to which she enthusiastically agreed, feeling excited despite not knowing why. They made a promise, symbolized by the charm, that in the end, they were definitely going to end up together, affirming their commitment. They looked into each other's eyes, solidifying their promise that one day, they would truly be together in reality. Senpai, now appearing determined in the real world, declared that ever since he made that promise in the dream, he had been preparing for this moment and would confess his feelings to Hanasaki, telling her all the words he had prepared. Meanwhile, Himari was talking to Hanasaki about Senpai, saying she thought Hanasaki was a charming girl, causing Hanasaki to look confused and ask, "Huh?" While Himari also remarked that there was no point in asking her big bro about such things. Senpai reflected that everyone agreed Hanasaki had a pretty face and a graceful demeanor, and Himari, seemingly unaware of Senpai's inner thoughts, continued talking about Hanasaki, saying that her grace wasn't something she was simply born with, but rather because she constantly strived to improve herself with a sincere heart, adding that she was outstanding in academics, the student council, and even in her work. Senpai internally agreed, noting that Hanasaki's high capability wasn't something everyone possessed, and he believed that her noble spirit truly made her beautiful, as she acted with delicate consideration for others, which was not easy to do. He then silently urged her to always stay true to who she was. A moment of silence passed between Senpai, Himari, and Hanasaki, blushing, thanked Senpai for the compliment. Himari then reminded everyone that it was almost time to go home, and told Hanasaki and Senpai to take care on their way home and that she would see them tomorrow, leaving the room with a thud. Senpai then reflected that compliments could also be considered harassment, especially when they were about someone's looks or personality, and he worried that he had ended up making Hanasaki uncomfortable, while Hanasaki appeared distraught and embarrassed. Himari then demanded of Senpai, "Oni-chan, that's sexual harassment," and explained that he didn't mean any harm, but that she would talk to Chiharu-chan to smooth things over, to which Senpai replied that it helped a lot. Himari then enthusiastically declared, "Yes. Let's hurry to the supermarket," as she dashed out of the student council room. That night, in the dream, Hanasaki appeared before Senpai, asking if they were in love with each other now. She then expressed her profound happiness about his passionate words earlier, apologizing while covering her face, still seemingly in a state of embarrassment. She tearfully explained that she meant to tell him how she truly felt but ended up making him uncomfortable, and she deeply regretted it. Senpai, looking concerned, prompted her to tell him how she was feeling. He then asked her to sit down, explaining that he had a question. Why did she think she felt uncomfortable? He further explained that he wanted to learn from her response for next time too. Hanasaki, still tearful and embarrassed, began to confess, saying, "I guess it can't be helped," and then in a quieter tone revealed, "The truth is, I was really happy." Senpai appeared surprised by this revelation. Hanasaki continued, explaining that she couldn't sort out her feelings because she had suddenly received so many beautiful words, like a proposal, from the usually indifferent senpai, and then she had to suppress her grin when she thought about his stiff expression too. She then asked, "Why are you even saying something that far?" implying that his confession was too direct, and confessed that she was so ashamed because she ended up being mean to him again today and regretted it, but also admitted that after that happened, she thought back on what he said to her, and she was really happy. She added that she had tried really hard to talk. Hanasaki then hesitantly asked if she could ask him for just one favor, inquiring if it was something he could do. Senpai, looking curious, replied, "Then." Hanasaki then requested, "Please hold me," adding, "And don't say you can't do it, okay?" She reminded him that in their first dream he had hugged her so tightly and it was super passionate, but he then pointed out that that was because he thought it was just a dream. Hanasaki then bashfully confessed, I feel the same as you, senpai," blushing and telling him not to make a girl say something like that first. Senpai, startled by her directness, then embraced her tightly, noting that a surprise attack was just unfair, but also offering to let go if she didn't like it. Hanasaki, still embarrassed, softly expressed that she didn't know why he was so calm about it, while he internally wondered if he really looked calm to her. He then suggested they think about what came next, and Hanasaki, still flustered, thanked him profusely. Senpai then reflected that his words today came across to the real Hanasaki in a good way, agreeing that her previous emotional inexpressiveness was perhaps the reason for their misunderstandings, and she agreed, asking him to be more expressive with his face and tone of voice because it was hard to tell what he was thinking, to which he promised to give it his all. Hanasaki then sat closer, believing that her future self would do her best, and Senpai hoped that he could become like this in the real world soon too, ending the dream with a shared yeah. After school, Senpai found himself in the student council room, reflecting on how improving emotional expression was pretty tough. He called out, "Hanasaki," as he saw her, and she turned to face him. He then began to speak, saying, "I think you already know, but let me tell you properly again. About you, senpai? I like you." At that very moment, his little sister, Chiharu, walked into the room and exclaimed, "Wa?" A confession from Chiharu? Completely misunderstanding the situation and adding a comical twist to Senpai's long-awaited real-world confession.